All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 Building Bridges All-In Community Experience. Um, we are hosting a session this morning on how to offer hope for being the best possible parent, partner, and provider. Our speakers today are Kim Dent and Joey Green. I know Joey is getting situated right now, so we will start in just a minute. Some housekeeping. One is we are recording this session, just so you're aware, and it will be played live on our YouTube channel. In addition, please keep your mics muted. You're welcome to jump off screen. But if you have any questions, we're going to have some time in between the presentations and at the end to offer that session. So if you would just keep muted until then. And as soon as I see Joey back on, we will kick off.
And Mr. Emmons, if you want, I can go ahead and talk about the grantee flyer, and then hopefully Mr. Green will be back on.
That'll work.
If
I'll go
you
ahead
want
and
to
pull
do
it up
that.
for you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Dent. I am Executive Director of the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood. We are part of the Department of Children and Youth. We actually used to be part of the Department of Job and Family Services, ODJFS. But with the governor creating this new Department of Children and Youth, focusing on the potential, the well-being, the outcomes of Ohio's children, we were moved over to DCY because we know that fathers involved in a child's life, our kiddos just perform off the charts, and there's just the outcomes are just so much better. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what I did want to do before we shared the PowerPoint was talk about the programs that we're funding in Ohio. And so when we are in the prisons, and I've been to every prison except one, there's one, the Lake Erie, I think up in Ashtabula, but all of the other prisons, multiple times I've been in, and this is one of the sort of flyers, it's a front and back that we take into the prison, right? Because again, we talk about hope and we talk about not giving up. And so these are fatherhood programs that the Commission on Fatherhood funds with TANF, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. And so that's where funding of the commission is right now. So when dads are released or moms are released, because we serve moms as well, they are not losing hope. They're able to, tap into one of our fatherhood programs when they are released or while they're incarcerated. They can do that as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. So Mr. Emmons, thanks so much. The other piece I wanted to mention before we get into our systems, and while Mr. Emmons is pulling up the PowerPoint, is we are also doing conferences inside of our state prisons. We've done a motherhood conference at Northeast Reintegration. We've done 2 fatherhood conferences at Lorraine Corrections. We've done 2 at Grafton. We're scheduled to do a fatherhood conference at Pickaway at the end of this month, 25th, 26th, 27th. So these are actual conferences that last 3 days in the men's prisons and 2 days in the women's prisons. And they're participating in workshops. We have plenary sessions. They are served food that they don't typically eat while they're there. So for example, I'm going to give a big shout out to Pickaway and to Passages for the food that the incarcerated fathers will eat this month at Pickaway during the fatherhood conference. So they're going to have fried chicken from Giant Eagle, mashed potatoes. I believe there's maybe some green beans and the little Hawaiian rolls. But again, it's to ensure that they know and understand while we're there and with the motherhood conferences that your title is still dad and your title is still mom. And no one has stripped you of those titles, right? But again, we need to ensure that that you know what to do while you're here to not lose hope in those titles as mom and dad. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there and make a plug for the various conferences. We're actually scheduled to have a motherhood conference at DCI in May. So I wanted to point that out. And anyone that has loved ones in the DYS system, we're actually doing fatherhood conferences at the Cuyahoga Hills in April. We've done one last year in Indian River. So we're working with young fathers as well. So, all right, thank you so much for allowing me to plug that and just to let everyone know that just at the commission and at DCY, how we are trying our best to engage our incarcerated loved ones. Okay, so I'm ready for the PowerPoint, Mr. Edmonds.
All right, just let me know that you can see it.
There it is. Yep, absolutely. So again, I'm Kim Dent with the Commission on Fatherhood. My passion for this work is because of kiddos, children. Everything again that we do has to fruit something positive for a child. I started my government work at Franklin County Child Support, so I understand the systems. And then I moved to the State Office of Child Support, and now I'm here as Executive Director sitting in DCY. So next slide. So this again is my why. This unfortunately is what happens with our children, with our kiddos when dad is not engaged. More likely for our kiddos to live in poverty. Infant mortality goes up by 2 times. And again, this is from the National Fatherhood Initiative, NFI, their Father Facts 8 document that they sent out a few years ago. They just completed Father Facts 9. I encourage anyone that's in the field of fatherhood work to go out to National Fatherhood Initiative's website and take a look at all of the different resources that are there. But this graphic really just kind of tells the entire story as to why we are in this work. Again, when dad is not there, and that's why we talk with fathers during programming in the prisons, your kiddos are more likely to end up in that pipeline as well, right? That community to prison pipeline. More likely to drop out of high school. 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. So again, just some of the outcomes that we look for here at DCY. The focus at DCY is reducing infant mortality. Well, there's data for dads being involved. The other is ensuring that our kiddos are kindergarten ready, right? So our kids just perform academically better because their behavior is better when dad is there. Again, less likely to experience abuse and neglect. And then the third goal of DCY is to keep our kiddos out of foster care, right? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how our systems can do a little better in engaging fathers to ensure our children do not go to foster care when the child is removed from mom's home. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk about Child Protective Services. The first thing I want to do is give another plug. Tuesday Talks in November. It's on November 12th. I encourage folks to sign up for Tuesday Talks because there will be a representative, one of my staff from the Commission on Fatherhood, again, giving a little bit of high-level information about the commission, but the majority of the presentation for Tuesday Talks on November 12th will be 2 representatives from DCY who work for the state children's services. Okay, and so you're probably going to hear a little bit more of this information, but they will dive a little bit more into children's services and again, what the local county child protective services agency should be doing when working with incarcerated parents, moms and dads. And so this data that I'm showing you here is from a state-by-state report that was produced by Fatherhood Research and Practice Network, FRPN. And a lot of folks, again, don't know kind of how the structure of government works. We have the Federal Office of Health and Human Services, Administration for Children and Families. And underneath that, there are different systems like child support, child protective services, they call it child welfare. That sit in that office as well. And then there's the state. So I work at the state office of DCY. And here we have the state level of child protective services. And then ODJFS still has the state office of child support. And then at the local level, we have our county PCSAs, Public Children's Services Agencies. And so when the federal office comes into the states, they pull cases from the Children's Bureau. They pull cases in these states, and they're looking at certain measures. Did the state meet these measures? And so we in Ohio, like many other states, we fail when engaging fathers in our child protective services system, right? So here's some percentages from 2017. The Child and Family Services Review, and we continuously fail. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing so that we stop failing or try to find a way to stop failing. But when we look at the state percentage of cases where the Child Protective Services Agency made efforts to promote a positive relationship between child in foster care and his father, we're at a failing 59%. In 2017. Percentage of cases where father's needs were assessed and addressed to achieve his case goals. Again, a failing 51%. And then the percentage of cases where agency made concerted efforts to involve fathers in case plannings. Again, 69% failing, but not as bad as the first two. So one of the pieces that we try to ensure we keep an eye on is if dad is on the case plan and he's incarcerated, if mom is on the case plan and she's incarcerated, the children's services worker is supposed to visit them once a month in person. Now, because of COVID, there was a rule change that did allow for the video visits, but again, they're supposed to keep the parents, even though they're incarcerated, involved and informed about what's going on with their kiddos, okay? So that's one of the pieces that we talk with our local children's services agencies. Again, even though the rule does allow for video visits, there still has to be an effort to try and get to the prison in person and meet with mom and or dad. And the reason why I say and is because I remember going into DCI and there was a young lady there, her husband was at Marion Corrections. And so the quick story is she was concerned because her grandfather, which is the 3-year-old's, I think he was 2 or 3, great grandfather had the child. And she was afraid because, again, sometimes these prison yard myths sometimes scare our parents and we don't want them to be afraid. But someone told her that since you're incarcerated and your husband is incarcerated, Children's Services is going to take your child. And that's not correct. As long as there is a kin, someone is there to be able to provide and take care of the child, because that's what we want. We want our kiddos to be with kin or kin-like, loved ones whenever mom and dad are not available. And so she gave me her grandfather's number. Long story short, I spoke with him and found him resources in his community to help him with gaining like guardianship, because of course he had to get the great grandson to doctor's appointments and different things like that. So, and we don't want parents to lose hope because of myths, right? So we want to make sure that everyone has the truth. Next slide. So again, this is Child Protective Services, and this is the 5-year plan. So because we fail and we're failing again, and I didn't give you the most recent numbers because I didn't have them, but nonetheless, we're failing. And those percentages don't matter to me. As long as we fail, we're failing. And so we have a 5-year plan that we had to send to the federal office as the state to let them know what we're going to do to continue to address, how we're failing and why we're failing. And so I wanted everyone to know that in this plan from 2024 to 2029, again, we have different goals. And the second goal is to ensure every child and teen is placed in a family-like setting and maintain connections they identify as important to their lives. And under that particular goal, there's objective 2. And this is the first time that our state was intentional about ensuring fatherhood is engaged, or fathers are engaged in this work. So objective 2 is create new or enhance existing best practices and tools to facilitate connections with fathers. So again, whether they're incarcerated or they're in the community. This is our goal. We need to make sure that we keep those connections going. You know, if mom is incarcerated or mom is in substance use disorder, and the knee-jerk reaction is always asking, where is mom's mom? Where's mom's family? There's also dad and his family. So if he's incarcerated and mom's family is also not in a position to take on the kiddos, then rather than looking at foster care next, what about dad's family? I have a son and he doesn't have any children yet, but if that was a situation, I would say, hey, I'm paternal grandma. I can take my grandchild, right? Our kiddos don't always have to go to foster care, and we have to sort of look at foster care as a further down the road option. And so here in the Commission on Fatherhood, we are funding a pilot project, and I love pilot projects, but we're funding a pilot project called EPIC, Engaging Practices to Inspire Change. So I'm paying the salary of a fatherhood practitioner to sit inside of Cuyahoga County's Children's Services Agency. That's where he goes to work every day, because we know a lot of times in our systems, we have a lot of implicit biases, right? And we all have implicit biases. If you say you don't, you're not telling yourself the truth, because your implicit bias is your life experience, and we all have life experience, right? And so we want to make sure that the women that are working in this field of children's services or health and human services or social services understands it's important to park your biases at the door before you start working on other families' cases, right? And so he is there to kind of change, gain that trust. He's a father, he's African American, and he goes there every day. He's helping fathers ensure that they are engaged in their case plans. They're showing up for their appointments. And so he's helping dads, but he's also helping to build that trust and offering a way to get the folks that continuously don't, adhere to policy or procedures. Thank you. That they're not following policy or procedures to ensure that they have a way to say, hey, Mr. Beard, his name is George Beard, I've called this father, he hasn't called me back. Can you call him? Sometimes it's a difference of hearing a male's voice on the phone for a dad who doesn't trust our systems, and rightfully so, many times, that he now is engaged because there's a fatherhood practitioner. And then there's also an Engaging Fathers in Children's Services Best Practice Guide Toolkit. We are revamping this toolkit, but the first time we failed, when I was executive director here at Commission on Fatherhood, we put together a toolkit for child protective services workers on how to engage fathers. Because sometimes, we would ask them, why are you not engaging dads? And some of the responses were, I don't know what to say to him. Well, you say to him kind of the same thing we say to mom, right? But we put together a toolkit to kind of help in that. It's on my website. It is forward facing, just like the grantee flyers on that Mr. Emmons showed you at the very beginning of the presentation. But everything's on the website at fatherhood.ohio.gov, and all of that information is going to be on the final slide. Next slide. And so child support, that's another system that I can honestly say was pro-mom, anti-dad, and that's not how the child support system under the Social Security Act, Title 4D, that's why we call it 4D, is child support. It's not the way it started. And it's not how it was intended, but over the years, over the decades, we did a really good job making it seem like we were anti-dad, pro-mom. And so child support at the federal level, as well as at the state level, we're rebranding, because what child support should be focused on is the well-being of the child, that the child is financially provided for, and the best interest of the state. So when a parent is receiving public assistance, there's a way to reimburse the state for that public assistance. And many times, if it's cash assistance, then that child support would go to the state. But I don't want to get into the weeds of child support, because it is a pretty big program, but I do want to give basics. So a paternity establishment, a lot of times when I'm in the prisons, dads didn't know. If you feel or you think that you are the father of a child and paternity was not already established, you can fill out a 4D application in prison. They will send someone into the prison to collect, do a buccal swab, and then it'll be the child support agency where the prison is located. So if it's in, if it's at Pickaway, since I'm going to be in Pickaway later this month for the Fatherhood Conference, if it's in Pickaway, then Pickaway Child Support would come in, do the DNA testing, and then collect the DNA from mom, baby, or child. The other way to establish paternity, again, is signing the acknowledgement of paternity affidavit. This is not a prison visitation document. We have heard over the years, Tiffany Chin and I, who works for the State Office of Child Support, that women were sending this acknowledgement of paternity affidavit into the prison and saying to dad, hey, if you want me to bring your son or your daughter in, you got to sign this. No, this is you acknowledging beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are the father of the child. You accept all responsibility, including financial. You're also waiving your rights to the DNA testing because you can't have both, right? The third way is daddy by default, and we're hoping that many counties are kind of not doing this as much as they were in the past. I know some of our smaller counties are not because they'd rather kind of do the process server, a registered mail. But what basically happens here is if someone alleges you to be dad, they will send a notice. Usually it's certified mail. If someone signs for that certified mail, you're served, even if you're not there. And if you don't show up, or let's just say you did sign for it and you don't show up, child support will then refer the case to court. Court will give you another opportunity to come in to determine the father-child relationship. As long as you were served, if you don't show up, the gavel can come down, you're daddy by default. A lot of fathers in the prisons, when I'm going in presenting, would say to me, Miss Dent, I didn't even know I had a child. Next thing I know, I have a child support order. Well, you don't get a child support order unless one of these happen, or the other way to have to be a legal father is marriage. I didn't put that on here because there's nothing you have to do. When you're married, you're just presumed to be dad, no hoops for you to jump through. If you're not married, one of these ways will determine if you're father or not. So, what we tell our dads, hey, when you're released, I don't care where you lay your head. I don't care what pillow you sleep on, where you're couch surfing when you're trying to get established. Have one address that your mail goes to, because that's what the system uses. Child support and the court will use the post office to ask, hey, does this person receive mail at this address? If it's yes, then that's where certified mail is going to go. If it's an ex-girlfriend who doesn't like you, do you really think you're going to get that? She's going to sign and say, sure, he lives here. And then she's going to open it and look at it and then maybe keep it, throw it in the trash. I'm not sure, but you can never have a child support case unless some type of way there's a father-child relationship that was established. Okay, next. So again, please know that we are in the prisons. One of the workshops that we provide during the conferences is a child support workshop. So in Pickaway, on Saturday, the 26th of October, the incarcerated fathers will receive an entire workshop presentation on child support. They'll also receive an entire workshop presentation from Children's Services, okay? And then there will be some other workshops in there as well. Administrative review and adjustment. So once you have a child support case, right? You have, there's 3 years you can ask for a review and adjustment. Just 3 years, you don't have to have any reason. But if it's before 3 years, there are other situations where you can ask for a review and adjustment. Rule change. So again, I'm so happy starting in child support in the late 90s and where we are today, there's a big difference because I didn't have this ability to provide a review and adjustment to someone incarcerated. But now incarceration is a reason in the rule to give someone an administrative review and adjustment. When I was working in child support, if you were incarcerated, I could impute income that you used to make before you were incarcerated. Why? Because I would say, you being incarcerated is a voluntary act. And so now you're voluntarily unemployed and underemployed. So yeah, that job that you had at Honda where you were making 35 bucks an hour, although you're incarcerated, and I didn't do this, but caseworkers could do this, this 35 bucks an hour you used to make, I can impute that to you because you committed the crime voluntarily and now you're voluntarily unemployed or underemployed. Can't do that anymore. Not permitted to do that. Right sizing orders by using the state pay, right? So if the state pays 17 bucks a month, 20 bucks a month, then that's the pay that I have to, that's your income. Your order will be right sized. If I'm in a county child support agency that doesn't want to do that, I just want to go ahead and implement the minimum order in Ohio. It used to be $50 for child support. Now it's $80 per month for child support. So again, I just wanted to give folks hope that we as the systems are recognizing and making changes, sometimes slower rather than fast, but we are getting there to ensure that we are engaging moms and dads, regardless of where they are. We have to meet them where they are. And we want them to stay engaged with their kiddos and also ensure that when they do come out that they are not, that they have hope, you know, and that they can reach out to the Commission on Fatherhood. Next slide. And so here we have driver's license suspension. Now, before, when I worked in child support, if I was tired of calling Mr. Dent or, you know, Mr. Green every month and I'm never getting a response, suspend. Can't do that anymore, right? If Mr. Green paid 50% or more of his child support over a 90-day time frame, if his order is $100 a month, after 90 days, that's $300. If he paid 180, that's more than 50%. I can't touch his driver's license. Also, sometimes folks wouldn't know their driver's licenses were suspended until they got pulled over. I have to send Mr. Green a 10-day notice to let him know, hey, Mr. Green, I've been trying to call you. I tell you what, if you don't reach me by this time, in 10 days, I'm going to suspend your license. So at least he knows. Reinstatement. I used to say, you know, you want your license reinstated, pay off all of your arrears. Well, that's not going to happen. I owe $20,000 in arrears. The other was the cart before the horse. Mr. Green, I will reinstate your driver's license once you get a job. And when I get that first payment from your employer, I'll reinstate your driver's license. So again, cart before the horse. He needs his license so he can go look for a job. So now I put in green the rules references if Mr. Green is part of a family support program identified by the local child support agency, like a fatherhood program, I can reinstate his license. Why? Because the fatherhood program at the end of the day is going to help Mr. Green obtain employment, right? Our fatherhood programs help with parenting, co-parenting, and helping with obtaining employment. Lastly, ROPA, reduction of permanently assigned arrears. Now, unfortunately, not all of our county child support agencies participate in this, but these are arrears owed to the state, not to the custodial parent or the caregiver. But we have a rule, and not all states allow this in the United States and its territories. But if arrears are owed to the state, the county can negotiate and say, hey, if I can get payments from you now for your minor child, we can make a negotiation to start waiving some of those arrears that are owed to the state. And so there are some success stories, but I want to leave enough time because I want to leave Mr. Joey Green an opportunity to talk about his experience and kind of where he is today as well. But the county agency can waive up to like 4,000, up to 5,000, and then the state has to approve anything over 5,000. Okay, next slide. So there's my contact information. You can email me. Let's see, there's my work phone. Don't call my work cell because I only use my work cell for emails. But if you call my office phone, this is actually the number that's posted on our website as well at fatherhood.ohio.gov. Yes, you can call me, you get my voicemail, leave a message, it rings here on my Surface Pro. And so again, just want to make sure that we leave families, moms, dads, caregivers with hope, because at the end of the day, it all points to the well-being of our kiddos. So any questions before I turn it over to Mr. Joey Green? Or anything in the chat at all?
I don't see anything in the chat. I am going to unshare for a minute just in case somebody has a question. And I will put your contact information in the chat while we wait and see.
Sounds good.
I know that I had a couple questions, if you don't mind, real quick. I know Joey wants to probably get started.
Yeah.
So first off, I found a lot of the information super interesting. I didn't realize how connected you were inside the facilities with the conferences and the programming. You know, the Commission on Fatherhood, I've connected with them on a lot of things over the years, but not to the extent that I realized you guys are actively doing. So great work. And I really, truly appreciate talking about motherhood as well, just because
Yes.
I started working with a lot of women at ORW. There's a lot of things just in this short bit of time here I didn't realize as far as you know, childcare, for example, if mom and dad are both incarcerated. And even I know we often use things like COVID as an excuse, but the fact that workers are expected to get inside the facilities and meet with mom and dad. But to touch on your conferences and the programming, you kind of touched a little, I think, on maybe a stigma that comes with the prison environment. And I guess, more out of curiosity, as much as you've been inside in the conferences you're holding, you know, most people think a prison's a barrier to building that relationship. Kind of what's your take on that? Like, do you find that not be the case? That when you invite families into the prison system, they're actually able to sit down with mom and dad. Do you find that that helps actually build that relationship, given the environment, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, and maybe Mr. Emmons, I can send this to you afterward, but Fox 8 News did a spot when we were at NERC, Northeast Reintegration, when we had the Motherhood Conference this past May. And so what I tell folks here, especially with my colleagues who are just now starting to do more work with DRC, is it's just amazing. First off, the hearts for their family, their kiddos, not to mention the talent. I don't know, I don't want to start pulling things out, but some of these things in my office behind me are thank yous that were made by some of the incarcerated parents, some of the incarcerated fathers when we did these fatherhood conferences. But they are so appreciative. And again, starting with Director Moore, asking, are my prisons family friendly? We were doing a lot of forums inside of the prisons and in the community, because that is something that was important to him. And then with Director Chambers Smith, my goodness, how she came in and she just really ran with ensuring the prisons are family friendly, but then also asking the questions about our systems, are our systems as friendly? And so I think, Mr. Emmons, again, that's a really good question, that they are so appreciative and shocked to hear that, oh, that is my right, and that right is not removed while I'm incarcerated. I think, again, our rules are not geographically specific. Like, if you're here, then this rule applies. If you're male, so it's not gender specific, then this rule applies. No, the rule is the rule. And so I'm going to tell you, again, being in every prison, including the penitentiary, we do programming in the pen. It takes us 2 days to get through all of the blocks, but
Mhm.
we do programming as well there. And so the quick story with the penitentiary is there was a young man who was there, and I remember seeing him because I kept thinking to myself, oh my gosh, he's so young. And so when he released into Erie County with his mom. He had a child support case in Huron County, and his license was suspended. He had a job waiting. He needed his license. So he called me. He said, Miss Dent, I remember you here. We're here. We bring a lot of papers in. But I told him, don't lose that grantee. Don't lose that one grantee document. So he called me, and I called the child support director at Huron County and let her know, look, hey, he's released. He needs his driver's license. He does have a job offer. Because at the end of the day, child support just wants you to pay your child support. And so she was able to work with him to confirm that he had this job and released his driver's license based on the fact that, yes, the employer wrote on a letterhead, that, yes, I am going to hire him, but he has to have his, because of the type of job it was, he needed his driver's license. So it's just things like that where we don't want our families to lose hope. So yes, the prison is the prison. It's geography. You're still a parent, but we as systems need to make sure that we get into these prisons and give them the truth and talk to them about their rights. And give them hope, but then also hold our systems accountable to do the right thing. I hope that answered your question. Mr. Emmons, I think he might have frozen. I'm gonna turn off my video. Sometimes it helps. Okay. I don't know. We must have lost Mr. Emmons, but
Uh-oh.
but Joey, you know what? Are there any other questions for me? I see a lot of things. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan Platt. Good to have you on with Story Chain. Miss Elizabeth Brown and Mr. Anthony Brown Varner, you are very welcome. Again, reach out if there are any other questions for me. So Mr. Emmons, are you back on sharing? I'm not sure who's sharing, or is that you, Miss Rachel? Because I have the PowerPoint up and I could have shared, but.
No, you're good. That's me. I'm back on.
Okay, perfect. So
Sorry
I'm
about
gonna,
that.
okay. Sometimes it helps to turn off my camera, but so I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it over because I know it's 11:22 and I want you all to hear from Mr. Joey Green. His story is very, very impactful and encouraging. So Mr. Green, turning it over to you.
Okay, I'm trying to keep it short. Mr. Emmons, you can put up the first slide. But yes, my name's Joy Green. I can see the background. I actually work at the Columbus Urban League. I work in reentry. I help incarcerate or justice involved individuals with their transition back into society. And just want to share that I was at London Correctional and also at Madison Correctional when I met Mr. Emmons, and at that particular time, C.L. Emmons. And I want to say my experience in Madison wasn't a negative one. I committed crimes, and I needed to go fix what was wrong with me, caused me to step out of line as a civilian. Uh, but, I put the ODRC's mission statement on my first slide because it definitely was true for me. And I had a few small children. Before my incarceration, I went in, they were young kids, and I said a prayer, asking, God to, be good to my children. And I would, not that it was if you don't do this, then I'm not going to be good. I just said, I'm just going to be the best person I can be, even though I was incarcerated. Next slide, please. So when I wrote letters to my children, I always signed fathering from a distance. And as I said, they were young, and I felt I needed to keep that connection with them to let them know it wasn't their fault that daddy was incarcerated and that I loved them. And so I made phone calls. Phone calls were kind of expensive on the mothers of my children. And I always say mothers of my children because I say, you know how when I hear people say they have baby mamas, I say I don't have baby mamas. And the reason why I don't have baby mamas is I don't have baby mamas trauma. We're all here to ensure that our children are healthy, safe, and now we have grandchildren. So we're grandparents now, and we do that all together. So in our sync, as the pictures show, I sent cards, letters. I had guys who make cars, had drawings. There was a picture of my three small children together on my son's first birthday. And mind you, as I say, they were by different ladies. And I had someone sketch me in that photo. And that is hanging in one of my relatives' house who wouldn't part with it, so I couldn't bring it. But I believe, ODRC's programming helped me to understand, being, how important it was to still be a parent. And it kind of gave me a drive. And I read the newspaper every day just so I could know what was going on, in Franklin County, where I was from and where my children reside. Next slide. One of the things, gifts again, I would send holidays, I would send days to my children. Mind you, I made less than $20, and it cost me $15 to mail one box of Debbie's, including the price and the mailing. Centerpiece, you see, my son, I found this article in the newspaper where it was advertisement. You can get your picture on it was Wheaties, Lucky Charms, and Cheerios. So I asked my young son, what cereal he would like. I'm like, I'm gonna get my son on a Wheaties box. And he chose Cheerios. And I'm like, no, don't you like Wheaties? So anyway, got his face on the Cheerio box. And before I even received the picture from him, it's because it's cased in plastic. So we were talking on the phone, and I asked him, I said, did you get the cereal? And he says, no cereal in it. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't spend over $20-$30 for a box of cereal, and there's no cereal in it. But this actually sits on the mantle in my home. So I thought it was important to keep sending gifts. I had daughters. I sent Barbie dolls, Hot Wheels, and that kind of stuff. Next slide. I think it's more gifts. I want to thank the faith base who came into the institutions. I was able to send my children to summer camps through those who ever heard of Anchor Hocking, the Broad Street Pedestrian Church. Several, I think 3 or 4 years, my kids were able to get together. And as I said, they were by different ladies. So they were able to at least spend that summer camp together. And they knew this is where dad sent them, even though dad was incarcerated. Same as Triple S camp. The Southside Settlement House, I don't believe it's in existence anymore. And then the Obed's Church, I used Angel Tree for them for Christmas gifts. And this was great because the gifts, you sign up with, they had a list of things you can pick for your children. I check off, and then if you wanted to leave a little message, a little card for your kid, and that would be on the gift, I was able to do that. And it's, once again, my children were thinking, oh, dad sent me this. And I want to really thank River of Life Center Church, River of Life Christian Center, which was in Urbana, Ohio. I was watching their broadcast on TV one Sunday, and they were giving away bicycles. And it just so happened my youngest daughter, someone stole her bicycle when she left it outside the store, the little carry out around the corner from her. And then so I wrote them and I said, hey, this happened to my daughter. Is there any way that, I can get her a bike? And then I gave them my mom's number. They called my mom, and then they asked my mom how many children I had, and my mom said, well, he has 3 small children, and they asked, well, why didn't he get all the kids a bike? And he said, well, only one bike was stolen. So they ended up buying all my children bikes, and it was something to cry about, actually, but it felt good to be able to do that, for my children. Next slide, please. Madison Correctional Institution. How can I just thank them for, anyway, because I don't want to hear. So I used to hear about inside the female institutions, they had a better connection with their children. So I heard this thing about having fathers being more involved in their children's life. And this was my focus. My focus was on me to fix me and to continue father. So I helped put together, organize what was called Father and I Day. So Christmas time, this event came about. I was part of the Buckeye JCs. We bought food. And we decorated. That one picture, that is my dad, my son. My only time my dad ever came to see me was during this Father and I Day, and he brought my son. And then this particular picture, my son probably is 14, 15, and I came home when he was 16 years old. And just there's that chimney thing behind him, the guys that was in Madison with me, we made that out of cardboard, and it was a actual fireplace, but it just cardboard. But that was that was one of my favorite days during my stay at Madison Correctional. Next slide. What does Daddy think? Well, my oldest daughter, she wanted to go into the Navy, and she actually sent a recruiter to the institution to see me. And so went up to they called me to the captain's office. I get to the captain's office, and I mean, all the staff are standing around because there's this Navy guy there to see me. And I think they thought that, I don't know, they were going to pull me out and I had to go on some kind of secret mission or something. But anyway, the recruiter came to my ex-wife's house, and my daughter, was trying to get into the military, the Navy, after graduation. And then so the recruiter said, well, hey, where's your dad? And my ex-wife said, well, he's incarcerated. And he said, oh, I don't need to see him. And my daughter's like, oh, no, you need to see my dad. And she sent the recruiter there to see me. And she served on the Harry S. Truman, USS Harry S. Truman. And then my youngest daughter was trying to pick a college to go to. These pictures are just off the internet. They're not actually my children, just to share that. So I helped her, find grants. She was left-handed. She was able to get a left-handed grant. There was a grant for incarcerated parents, and I was able to help her find money for her tuition to make it through college. And as someone who was fathering from a distance, it really made Dad feel good that they cared what I thought. And next slide, please. Oh, coming home, my transition, I want to say the Columbus Urban League really made my transition, I want to say easy. And I want to say when I was caught up in that transition, yes, it was hard, but as I look back, it was easy. I just had to have a plan. So when I came to the Urban League, one of the first programs that I got into was the Father program. And their curriculum was how to be a nurturing father. And I got rid of the word father, and I just want to be a nurturing person. That means any and every child or person can get it. And then I went to career services, looking for employment, the Minority Business Assistance Center, which helped me buy a house. The Minority Business Assistance Center helped me start a business. I started a lawn care business with one push lawnmower, and now I'm in 2 states. One of my daughters moved from Columbus to Virginia, and she asked me could she take some equipment with her, and I gave her some equipment, and she promised she was going to send me a check every month. It's been 2-3 years. I haven't seen any of those checks, but it's okay. And then the 700 credit score program, I took that program, and I like to say I'm way above that. And I'm trying to figure how come I don't have 800? What do I have to do to be 800? And I stopped my wife from spending so much, but just kidding. Home buyer education, I took this program. Within 3 years of my release, I became a homeowner. And when I say homeowner, I just didn't buy any home. I bought, not bragging, but I bought a $135,000 house that is now worth $300,000. And then because of these programs, I started volunteering at the Urban League. I would always go to the father graduations. They had the program Fishing with Dad. I'm volunteering. I didn't know how to fish, but I learned, and it was more about organizing and seeing how fathers and their children's came together for this event. And I always have said, if you're taking your children to a soccer game, a football game, they're in the back seat, you're driving, so you're really not engaged. And nowadays they're either playing video games or on their phones, so you're not paying attention. But when you're fishing, all those devices are down, and maybe you can ask your child something, or your child can ask you something because they're feeling more comfortable with you instead of being on those devices. And then a few years later, I was offered an employment opportunity in the Choose the Change program. And I want to say I'm coming up on 10 years here. And our program is called the Reentry Program, the Reentry Hub, actually. But I want to say, my transition was really smooth from my incarceration, to coming home. Like I said, the struggle was real. When I was in it, couldn't really, I just kept that hope that something's going to, turn for me. I can remember struggling with employment, struggling. And I said, look, I'm just going to stop all this. I got to go here, got to find a job, got to go this, but the pressure of that. And I said, you know what I really need to be? Just keep being a parent. And then after I made that decision to be more of a parent than worrying about getting a job, it's like everything I touch just turned to gold and everything opened up for me. Next slide. Well, as I said, that hope and love made dreams come true. Just picture of my home. I'm proud to have that. My business is the Curb Butler LLC. There's probably individuals on here who have heard of me. And I actually cut a lot of people's lawns that was part of my foundation. The picture there, that is of me and my children. And now, this is an earlier picture when I came home, about maybe 1 or 2 years in. They were grown. And I think because I kept those connections fathering from a distance while they were little, it was easier for them to say, hey, dad's home. I had to show them that I'm not here to take from them. I'm not going anywhere. As a parent, I'm here to give, so. But I would like to say, part of my foundation, Mr. Emmons, he was as a correction officer. I really appreciate that. Lisa Morgan, that was one of the first persons I contact from ODRC to try to find help. Kiston Palmer, Irene Lyons, Mike Davis, Tom, Daryl Graves. These people were my foundation to where I am today. Invited me to the reentry committee, and my voice was heard about helping change some of the things inside the institutions, as well as helping people transition. Also, on that note of child support, I did pay $4.75 a month. And I was in there with guys, I made less than $20, and guys used to complain about this. And I'm saying, hey, they're my children. Hey, they get that. I don't know how they're going to split that $4.75, but I owed that to them. And another thing, I always said, what I learned during my incarceration was how to manage my time. Because when those doors open, in the daytime, you only got so much time that is really yours. And I learned how to manage my time and who I spend it with. So I still live that today. I learned how to manage my health and learn how to manage money. I didn't have a lot of money. And by me trying to be involved in my children's lives, I really had to be thrifty when it comes to that commissary sheet. And now with my wife, I do the grocery shopping because she say I take too long because I'm reading labels. I want to know what's healthy and I want to know the cost. So yeah, so managing my time, managing my health, and managing my money. Thank you, guys. If there's any questions, that is my last slide. I think, yes.
Wow. So I don't
Was
see
I
any in the
on
chat.
mute?
No, you're good.
Was I on mute?
No, we heard you the whole time. You hear us all right?
Okay, yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, they can drop in the chat or do the raise the hand feature. I'm going to stay off camera just so I don't lose connection. So first off, talk about a story. That's a true transformation. And I'm with you. I would have picked Wheaties over Cheerios any day of the week. Nonetheless,
Me too, Mr. Emmons. Yeah, me too.
But I find it interesting. Like I'm kind of like touched by this. I appreciate you mentioning me and not just the DRC in general, but I remember you man, talk about somebody. I mean, he walked all the time. He was all over the place. He was very active. When he talked about being out there and you know, and doing his day, man, he was out there. A true inspiration. He's even come back into the prison when I was still there, helping other men and women, or excuse me, men inside the facility as well, just trying to connect with them as well. So I really appreciate the fathering from a distance. I mean, that's exactly what you talked about. That's such a great motto because, I mean, you truly did everything you were involved in, all the things you were doing. I mean, I think Kim could probably second this, but that connection you made with your children, everybody thinks you have to be sitting across from, you know, a kitchen table or being up in their business, but just the fact that they know you're present, whatever that looks like. I remember all those things. And really, he talked about a family event. And he was involved in. And those things kind of really started a lot of stuff that we did inside the prisons, to be honest with you. You know, you heard about it, but nobody ever thought I'm going to bring my kids, I'm going to bring my family into a prison. And it was events like what Joey mentioned that really started this trickle effect. And that's why so much stuff is going on these days. And I just appreciate him not taking advantage of, but being involved in things like that. Because a lot of people use it as something they take advantage of. And I can truly tell that Joey appreciated it all. So truly appreciate just such a great story. And he's doing a lot of great work now. So we don't have any questions, some comments in here. Just a lot of things about, you know, sharing. It's a wonderful story. Everything you're doing, Joey, even the business startup, such a great thing. It says, Sam Brown mentioned, is there a movement in making the prisons more uniform in resources they offer? Of course, it's partnerships like this. You know, the prison system can't do it alone. When we bring in individuals from out in the community, we're going to treat them as subject matter experts. You know, I'm a father. You know, I got very touched by what Joey mentioned about being a father. I can tell you, I feel like he was tenfold the father I am, just being inside the prison. The stuff he did is just amazing. I think as an individual that had that connection, I may not have taken advantage of it like I should have. So, but having individuals, collaborations like the Columbus Urban League, like the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood, Children and Youth Family Services, it's just a great, and bringing them in and having them do the work is fantastic. So,
And Mr. Emmons, I did send to you, and I CC'd Ms. Reba, the story, if you want to send it out to those that are in this particular workshop. But it's the Fox 8 story that they did in Cleveland during the Motherhood Conference at NERC. So I did send that to you. But if I'm permitted, and I know we just have 2 minutes, because, oh my gosh, the talent, the heart for their kiddos in these prisons are just, again, just off the chart. So if I can share, I just wanted to show, hold on one second, this one, okay. And it's just real quick, it's in an email. But the artwork for the motherhood and fatherhood conferences are done by the incarcerated parent. So this is the artwork that was on t-shirts. And I have this t-shirt. I wear it to the gym. I wear it when I grocery shop. But it's a mother's legacy. And then on the back, it has Passages, who's the fatherhood program that sort of supports and funds a lot of these conferences, and ODRC and the Commission on Fatherhood. But there's a mom at NERC that did this artwork and she won. I guess it's like a contest. And so this is a t-shirt and they all wear the same t-shirt. And when I say it's a conference, there's a conference booklet as well. And so in the booklet, it's a whole program, right? So I just wanted you all to just kind of have an idea. When we say it's a conference, it's just not out in the community, it's inside of the prison. But yeah, but I did send you the link for the Fox News. I think I don't even know, it might be a little over a minute, but it shows like the engagement of moms and the kiddos. So
and I'll follow up with Reba to make sure that gets out to everybody. So,
okay, perfect.
Well,
Thank you.
I know we're at time. I didn't see any other questions. Thank you again to Kim and Joey for taking the time to talk about these things. I think it was a great session and a great collaboration. Really tugged on some heartstrings there. So we greatly appreciate their time. I do believe there's a break for lunch and there's some afternoon sessions that start. So thank you again for being part of Building Bridges today. I know that there's some other sessions and then some in-person events tomorrow. So we hopefully get to connect with everybody there. Thank you again, everybody, and enjoy the rest of
Thank
your
you.
afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Be blessed. Take
Bye,
care.
everybody. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rachel.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Green. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye, Rachel.